Live again. This is Wei here from the Money Lab. Every week we start off with a little soft intro on YouTube to kind of give YouTube a chance for everybody to kind of like hear about the Money Lab starting up. I have our guest here today. Say hello, guest.
Hello, guest.
Actually, your name is not guest. Your name is Jan Farr.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So now that we got this going, the usual, we're going to go ahead and fire it up on the inside for the audio-only participants. So stay tuned. Here we go. All right, welcome to the Money Lab Live Podcast, episode number 81, the Every Culture is Different Money Story. Welcome back to another live broadcast of the Money Lab Podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I am your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy. Now, this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create that ultimate six-figure entrepreneurial lifestyle free of bad money stories, money anxiety, and stress so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook, From Money Anxiety to Six-Figure Mastery, make sure you go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on this show, and quite frankly, it could change your life. Now, if you're joining us live today and you're not on YouTube Live, make sure you go to, or you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app on your mobile device and search for the hashtag. Hashtag, that's that pound sign for those who don't know what hashtag is. Pound, hashtag, the Money Lab, so that you can join us in the chat room, ask questions, and interact with us and our guests. Now, while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. You can catch us every week. For all of the ways to find us, go to thesixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. Now, if there's something you love about what you hear on this episode today that you know could help someone you care about, remember, sharing is caring. So share this show to that person. Now, today's episode is being sponsored by the Energy Mind Body Transformational Experience events, EMBTE, which runs live, no-pitch, full-day events where the goal is to have that one shift, one transformational experience to help you optimize your energy, mind, and body. Go to www.embte for more details on the upcoming events. Now, I'm really excited about our show today because what we're going to do is we're going to dive deep into the world of how different cultures will actually have like different perspectives and different relationships with money. And what I want to make sure that you, the listeners, listen for today on the show is not just about how cultures play a role and how our money stories play out no matter where we are, but also kind of the journey, kind of embracing kind of evolution of money and understanding that, because our guest today is kind of an expert in that area. So before I introduce my guest today, I'm going to go through a little bit about his credentials because this guy is internationally viably friendly, okay? And so he's going to bring a lot to the table today. He's not only a successful entrepreneur type of individual, he's a dad, he's a husband, he's a real estate lending specialist. He's got a really cool story that I can't wait for him to share for you guys. And then he basically, in this day and time, he helps people realize their dream home anywhere in California. And let's talk a little bit about his background too. I mean, basically he has a strong academic background in business administration, so he didn't just go start in the real estate industry, and he presented business papers in local, international conferences, seminars, workshops, so he's totally comfortable in this type of a platform. He published a book with the title called Student Satisfaction Checklist. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but we're going to find out, I'm sure. And then basically he actually presented a few examples of the application of the Lean Six Sigma to customer service improvement, and I want to find out what that's all about because he got his Six Sigma green belt from UCLA. I wasn't in that class or in that dojo, but I guess we'll figure out what that is, right? Okay, cool. So he also curated a Manhattan Beach TEDx session. I don't know why I wasn't invited, but no, that's okay. He probably didn't even know me back then. On the title of Choosing Happiness back in 2011. Super accomplished. Can't wait for him to share even more. Before I take up the whole entire episode just going over his long list of credentials, welcome to the show, Mr. Yan.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, happy birthday, if I may say.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was trying to avoid that, and you totally kind of blew it out. So now, yeah, this is a very special episode, and people are like, "What are you doing working on your birthday?" Well, because it's Yan Fard. I have to do something, and he's worth doing it on my birthday.
Appreciate it. Hope you don't regret it.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah.
So cool. I mean, there's so many different things that you've done in your life, and before we had a chance to get you even scheduled on the show, you and I got a chance to sit down, talk about a few things and everything, and so I'm really fascinated about, and I'm excited about you being able to share how you got to where you are today. But let's first start off and just get that out of the way. What was the money story? Since this is the Money Lab, right?
That's right.
So tell our audience over it, what was your money story that you grew up with? Because you weren't from the U.S. originally.
No.
Okay, so I'm fascinated. Okay, where are you from originally?
I was born back in Iran.
Iran. Okay, cool. So per today's title of the show, which is every culture is a little bit different, right?
That's right.
Tell me about the money story that you grew up. I'm really excited about this because I didn't even know until you told me what the currency was called over in Iran.
That's
What's it called again?
It's called Rials.
Rials. R-I-A-S.
L-S.
Rials.
That's right.
Okay.
And
cool.
they have a sort of a slash Rials versus Tumans where they drop a zero. So because it's too sort of devalued, they try to sort of cut it shorter. So $1 per, I would say, current rates, it'll be 150,000 reals.
150,000 per $1.
That's right.
Okay, what can you buy for? In Iran right now? What can you buy for 150,000 reals?
Nothing. It's
it's kind of like when Germany was going through this whole.
Right.
Germany was going through when they were like doing cartloads of like money.
Exactly.
And people stole the wheelbarrow and left the money because the wheelbarrow is more valuable than the money. So is that kind of how it is over there?
It is. It's fun.
Can you even buy a pack of gum for 150,000
If
real?
you give it to a beggar, I'm sure they will be upset because it's.
It's insulting to give 150,000. Is it in one like sheet or is it?
No, it's like the lowest they have is probably 100,000 worth of.
So
reals.
$1 is like a stack of 100. Like
It's like they have it in pennies.
oh my god.
Yeah, it's like it's not worth it as much.
So
it's devalued. But going back to the question of money story, I will be talking about how things started. You know? So first, my money story. I think it's a great question. I like that because it sort of lets you talk about money.
Right, exactly. And well, more importantly, what kind of guided you in this lifetime when it came to money? Because just as a reminder for our audience, is that your money circumstance today is dictated to some degree by the money story that you grew up with.
That's so true.
And if you're doing well, you probably grew up with a really good money story. If you're having financial challenges, you probably have some bad money stories running.
That's right.
And so you're doing pretty well for yourself, so I'm excited. But everybody starts off with some kind of a money story, and whether or not you get that re-engineered or restructured or anything in your life, that's up to you.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So tell me about the money story that you grew up with in Iran.
Yes. So I was born into a middle-class family. You know, my dad was living paycheck to paycheck, working really hard, working class. And so I remember times where, it was rough or tough end of the month where, for us to, celebrate or have fun. But my parents always try to help us, enjoy, and we have those weekends where we had family times.
Right.
So he religiously, like my dad and my mom, they religiously helped me and my brother to enjoy. They never allowed money to become an issue versus enjoying your life.
Okay.
But as I grew up and I got to travel around the world. As you know, money is a medium of exchange, as Merriam-Webster dictionary says. It's a way to exchange and get the value or get something of value. So as I traveled, I got to see every culture has a different meaning or approach to money.
So before you started traveling, what was your definition of money?
My money was just a means. It wasn't the goal, and it was just a way to get by. There were values were more important than money. Okay. Which I think I still hold those definitions. But
and how did you know what money was used for? I mean, they had to have shown you something when you were growing up, right?
Of course, yeah. It's like they gave us a 1 week, this amount of money for you to buy some stuff.
So you got allowance?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not so different than other cultures,
of
right?
Course. It's pretty much similar.
I actually didn't get I didn't get allowance, and I think I realized it was a way for my dad to control his kids. But anyway, that's a whole different story right there. We don't. Yeah, that's a whole different episode too. No, anyway. But so they showed you they actually had money talk,
of course,
with you. I mean, they talked to you about money and everything.
Sure.
Was it your dad or your mom that talked to you about money?
It was both of them.
Oh, really?
My mom was a teacher when we were born, but she just resigned to focus on nurturing us and teaching us. But they both had conversations. So money was not a taboo in our house. We could easily talk about it, and if we had concerns or we needed money,
right.
But we had to earn it also. It wasn't like, oh, I need this much money, here you go.
You got to work for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and Iran, I mean, were most families like that in Iran, or do you?
Not quite. My parents were educated, so they sort of had gone through the understanding of the concept a little bit deeper. But I would say probably every family. It's funny when we travel, we'll see how much similar people are.
Yeah.
Even though there are a lot of differences in cultures and countries.
Right.
But bottom line, people are pretty similar.
People are people.
Yeah.
Right. Like Depeche Mode says, people are people. So why can't it be?
Yeah.
You can't.
So the similarities blows one's mind. I remember I lived in Malaysia or Southeast Asia for a while, where it's the country is very interesting country where there are three major races that are predominantly living there in Malaysia.
Chinese?
Malays.
Chinese is that?
Yes.
Like a virus.
They're actually the second largest group. So the first are Malays, seconds are Chinese, and the third are Indians.
Okay.
So these three groups are living together peacefully, and they all have their different definitions of money and approach to money.
And what would you see with the difference between those three cultures living within one country? What the difference is in terms of each of their approaches to money or their definitions of money and what money is?
I would say the majority are the Malays, where they are sort of setting the rules for the rest. So it was a little bit overshadowed the other two groups.
Okay.
But the Chinese were mostly for business. So they had a better understanding of the money, at least in practice, where all the businesses were mostly Chinese and all that.
Sure.
So their approach was totally different. Like you would see, like if you go back to history, how they came into the country. Some of them, they were trying to survive. So the survival mode was there.
Okay.
They were saving religiously for the hard times. So their approach was living below your means. Even though you have enough, you don't necessarily have to spend all the money you have.
Okay. So lifestyle was not really kind of a priority for them.
For some groups, not. Yeah,
for some groups, I mean, they live so frugally. I mean, I know this about my culture.
That's right.
It's like they live so frugally. It's like, really? What?
Even though they have a lot. That's right.
It is so ridiculous. And then you see movies like Crazy Rich Asians. You're like, okay, cool. We know the other side too.
That's right. You will see both sides there. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So it's funny. And then bottom line, you will see they all want to survive, have a living, have a good family, great time. And so end of the day, even though you go to, you just travel a little bit further to Singapore, you will see a little bit more advanced, deeper understanding of money. So it's just, but bottom line is the same. You have a family, you want to live a meaningful life, help your children, be successful. So end of the day, it's the same thing.
How about the Indian side? You said
it's for them. They are pretty successful in their group also. But because they came through the colonial times, the British colony, they have that mindset of survival, more sort of close to heart, and that's why you will see they really try hard to succeed, and it could be a little bit tougher for them.
How do they use money in that regard then?
They are more
that you've seen
conservative, if you will.
Even more than so what's the difference between conservative and the frugality of the Chinese culture that you observed in Malaysia?
They risk less.
They risk less.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right, because it's not so much as business. They're even more conservative.
It's just they want it, as long as they have enough, that's good enough. I mean, of course, the educated level, they are more into risking and succeeding and flourishing their assets. But when you compare the groups, you will see Chinese, they're more willing to take risk.
Okay.
Because they came in for business and they wanted to sort of do all the risk that they can to expand their wealth. Whereas the Indians, they're more conservative on just keeping or holding on to what they have.
Right.
And of course, the higher the education level or experience, they follow the same international rules of money.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, because you're so well traveled, you literally have seen this firsthand, different cultures and how different cultures. And because you work in the space of money, I don't think we even shared what it is specifically that you do, but I'll give you a chance.
Of course.
But it's probably even more. You're probably even more sensitive. And because of your background, what you studied, because you went to college in Malaysia too,
That's right? That's right.
And you studied business, and you studied
business
you learned about
administration.
money and
Yes.
economy and everything like that.
That's right.
So it's just seeing how cultures over generations and how that has shaped their different money stories, like a baseline money story. One is survival, one is taking calculated risk, but also stay frugal so that you can continue to take those risks.
That's
I
right.
feel like almost our culture, our Chinese culture, is that we take calculated risk and we stay frugal so we can continue to afford to take those calculated risks.
That's right.
Versus the Indian culture that you saw, basically because they were more about surviving because of the colonization and everything like that, that they were like, okay, we gotta be frugal with money, but to make sure that we can always survive.
That's right.
Right? So seeing that two dynamics, and did you talk about how Malaysians were? I mean,
The main group, they are sort of in between. The rules of the land sort of favors them most out of these three groups.
Right.
The Malays, they write the rules and all that, and it's changing. Their spring just happening as like recently. I
Right.
saw that there was a big change of the government, and so a lot of my Malaysian friends were happy about it. So so there are some good changes happening, but the idea was where the main group sort of writes the rules for the other two groups to a certain extent. So they are sort of like laid back a little bit further than
let's let the Chinese and the Indian work, and then we'll just kind of like capitalize on
That's
that.
right.
Well, I mean, they did come to Malaysia,
That's
right?
right.
To
But-
live and survive, right?
Yeah, but the main group also same concept. They learn from each other to a lot of extent, and they're sort of giving and taking from each other's culture. So
Okay.
it's a very dynamic, culture, and there's a lot to be
Right.
learned from it.
So, what do you think was the biggest difference, having come from Iran to all the way to the Malaysia, and seeing the trifecta of different types of Asians over there in terms of how they regard money? Did you notice there was the distinct differences between how money is in the culture of Iran?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference I would see is like I remember when I was there, more than 2/3 of their income, the country's income was from tourism. So a big
in Malaysia.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
At any given time, there were more than at least half, like almost 50% equal to their population were tourists. So they had a lot of people traveling there, and because of that, you will see people from all different walks of life and different countries. So you would see a lot more interaction.
Okay.
Whereas where Iran is right now, and there's not as much.
You mean it's not a big tourist attraction?
I mean, it could be, but not right now.
There's some beautiful places over there.
There are, yeah, but
Not right now. Why not? I don't understand what's going on here.
But what I mean is it's not as easy to travel going back and forth. So that's why
It's kind of like a Hotel California. You
That's
can
right.
check in, but you might never
check-
leave.
Yeah, that's right.
So okay, cool. So let me ask you this. Everybody's money story that they grew up with at some point played a role in some financial challenge in their life.
Sure.
If we kind of suss around it long enough, pay archaeological dig and just find out. How do you think this? Where do you think some of the shortcomings were with the story that you grew up with your parents and everything, focusing so much more on value, and then also having to work for money as opposed to money just giving to you, stuff like that. In your journey, was everything perfect? Financially just up and up and up and up your entire life?
No, definitely not.
What? Really?
Far, yeah.
It's like, well, I thought you were Superman, and so you're going to come here and show us how to have that perfect, linear, constant growth, no up and down financial lifestyle.
That's
okay,
right.
so let's talk about that a little bit, because that's what most people kind of can relate to, because
Sure.
everybody at some point deals with some kind of a hiccup in their financial. Sometimes people are bigger hiccups. Sometimes it's a whole blown throw up session. But anyway, what was the money story, or the part of the money story that kind of had an influence on one of your hiccups in your financial?
Sure. So I would say the biggest challenge was like as we started the our conversation, we talked about the limitations of the currency. It was and all the the power, the purchasing power of the currency that I left. So I had to, being a student and working part time, I had a lot to sort of think about or try to live below my means and try to save and be smart with my money. So it wasn't easy to spend all the money I wanted because I knew that my currency is not as strong. So so because I remember this memory where I was in I just started the course and I was going to buy a laptop with the money my dad sent me, and then it was very common. You would go to a money exchange shop and then you exchange the dollar
in Malaysia.
In Malaysia, yeah. And then they would just give you the U.S. dollar, or you usually give them a U.S. dollar, and then you get the Malaysian ringgit. So there was this guy followed me without me knowing it, and then he stole all the money I had.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like almost $3,500 worth of money. So
he was just following, just wanted to just pop.
And it's like they knock you and then they take the money.
Oh,
so
got it.
And then I realized
you didn't knock him back and take it back.
Yeah. I mean, I wish.
I'm gonna chase him down, knock him. It's like, here, you walk to me now. You walk towards me. I'll do it to you. No.
I mean, you wouldn't even realize. I just checked my pocket and the money was gone.
Yeah.
So things like that hit you hard when you have limited resources. So I had those days where I had to really be frugal in the money I had around me to spend. So it wasn't easy to sort of advance and grow. But I would say I learned a lot. I got to work as an RA, research assistant, or a TA, or and also work part-time with a consulting company and stuff like that. So I grew a lot. I got a lot of stuff that I learned that I could use and help me just to financially become more successful down the line.
And would you say that the money story that your parents raised you around and taught you was flawless?
I would say so. I would say the fact that value is something you should be pursuing. It's not about the means, because a lot of people think that means justify the means, and then so they use whatever means. But when you put your goal or your principles on top, then you know that you can't use any means, and there are some values you need to stick to, and that gives you character, and that helps you grow. And tough times will come and go, but what will not change is your value.
And how did you know how to navigate those tough times? Did you guys ever deal with tough times growing up as a kid?
Yeah, there were times like my dad, he wanted to invest. Same thing. Hopefully we'll be talking more. Yeah. But I remember when my dad was going to invest, and the person who was building the house, he was buying a house. Okay. And then the guy ended up, like the owner, the investor, ended up like cheating, and he was selling the same land to many people. It was a project. So we lost all that money.
That's like a Ponzi scheme. So it's
it was a Ponzi scheme.
You have 100 people buying the same property.
That's right.
That's what I'm going to do when I sell Mars property. Maybe you can help me mortgage that stuff. Of course, yeah. I'm going to sell your property. There's a plot right here. See that picture? Drop next to do a whole blueprint and everything.
That's right. So I remember those tough times where, he lost, he had to start from scratch. So I had seen him sticking to his values, working hard, it pays off. And he came back. So
he gets stuck just being angry and just kind of blaming that circumstance to go into financial ruin.
That's right.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Exactly.
There are people who, life happens. Circumstances happen, and we make mistakes. Life happens, and we see it so much where people use that as a reason to stay stuck or to stay crashed.
That's right.
It's like that kid that fell off the bike, and then it's like, I can't get up. It's like, just get up. You just skinned your knee. I can't get up. It's like, get up, And then because he never gets up, he never learns how to ride a bike.
That's right.
Plus, he probably gets hungry because if he doesn't get up, he can't go home and eat dinner and stuff like that. So
that's right.
Years later, the parents go out, the kid's still lying in the street. It's like, what's going on here? Aren't you hungry? No, anyway. No,
yeah. Or in another way, it's like failure is success in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always say all the time, failure, I mean, you learn nothing from success.
That's right.
Right? Because success is only a proof
Yeah, it's just the end result.
Yeah, it's a proof that you actually learned something from the previous mistake.
That's right.
Right.
And it's even temporary. You will see companies that are successful, but it's
Uh-huh.
just short-lived, and they fail again. So it's a process. Success is not a definite end result. It's a continuous improvement. And going back to that Six Sigma, for example.
What is that
idea.
Six Sigma?
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's like Jack Welch, which everybody probably
Uh-huh.
knows. He
I don't know,
no.
so I'm not everybody.
Oh, okay. Jack
Who's
Welch.
Who's Jack Welch?
Yeah, Jack.
Let me
Welch.
Google him. No,
Yeah,
I can't Google
yeah,
him right now.
No, yeah. So he's one of the business gurus that he used the Japanese culture
Uh-huh.
of Kaizen.
Okay,
Like
Kaizen,
change is
uh-huh.
good, right?
Mhm.
So he got that idea and he came up with this idea of continuous improvement.
Okay.
So basically what it is like you're trying to improve, like going to really detailed math. Where
Okay.
I always explain with this analogy of imagine you're trying to park your car in a parking,
Mhm.
right? Imagine the parking is very big, like 3 times as big as your car. So it's so easy to park,
Right.
but there's so much wasted space there.
Yeah.
So what Six Sigma does is like trying to make sure the parking is almost as big as your car. So there's very little room to be wasted. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to park perfectly in a parking where it's exactly the same, almost the same, plus 0.1 space of your car.
Oh, you
So-
have to be able to open the door.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
You get 0.1 inch to open the door. Crawl out the window, my friend. The hatchback. Only hatchbacks can park here.
That's right.
Doesn't get leave the car.
So all Six Sigma does is trying to minimize the errors.
Right.
So every time try to get better.
It's like an optimization strategy.
Continuous, yes.
Continuous optimization.
That's right.
It's interesting you say Kaizen, so I mean I can get a quick shout out to my episode number 1 guy who came on. His name is Kerry Hokama, and he calls his audience member. He has his own podcast called the Kaizenites because it's all about Kaizen. It's all
Nice.
about so he talks about that as well. So now that you mentioned Kaizen, maybe because it's an Asian thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it,
Yeah, of course.
But UCLA teaches that. I mean UCLA they give out
it's
a belt system
it's,
around
it's
that.
it's a.
Oh, I get it now. Kaizen. Okay, got it. Yeah.
It's an international course. It teaches you basic math that is applied. There are fishbone strategy. There's so much to
Basic math.
it. Yeah, it's like basic graphs where you
Okay.
try to do the bell curve.
Okay.
And the bell curve, the idea is to try to get it closer where the errors per million is as little as possible. So
They call that basic math? That sounds pretty complicated. I'm like going, wait, I'm an engineer. Even I was like, that doesn't sound very basic to me. Basic to me is like 1 + 1 equals what? 2.
barely.
That's basic, right? Or is that if that's not basic, then what is it? It's like core. No, don't even got me started on core math. Have you heard about that?
No.
Core math that they teach the kids?
Oh, okay.
The
yeah,
core
sure.
core something of another.
Sure.
I tried to understand it. Makes no sense to me.
Oh yeah.
I mean, have you looked at it?
No.
Okay, I dare.
I just barely I just became a father.
Oh yeah, that's
So,
right.
I'm-
You're not
I'm
even
yet
worried
to-
about
yeah,
that yet.
not yet.
Hopefully, core math will be out of there because it will blow your mind. Especially you're a numbers guy and knowing like basic math and fundamentals of 1 + 1 = 2. They teach the most convoluted way. It's like saying, for 1 + 1, in order for you to find the answer, go through Alice in Wonderland first. Talk to all the animals, and when you're done and listening to the directions, then you'll find your answer.
Wow.
That's what I think core math is. For those of you who are listening, you government officials who created a weird math process, that's my thought on it.
Not cool, huh?
Anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
Sure.
So the Six Sigma thing was what you then, and when did you learn that?
I was doing that when I was in college. Like, yeah, I was like.
But
I
you were
was-
in Malaysia. Was
Yeah.
UCLA?
No. I did the belt here.
Oh, okay. You came here.
Yeah,
So you went back and forth.
Yeah.
Or
I did apply it in my during the time I was doing my thesis for my master's, and also ended up publishing a book about it. But afterwards, it's like you practice and then you try to put a license on what you already know, sort of thing. So. Because I wanted to make sure I know all the ins and outs and the details. But
Right.
back then I was hired by a school.
Okay.
They had an online course where they had a lot of churns where like students would enroll
Okay.
and then they wouldn't finish the course, so they would lose the student which was a customer.
high turnover rate.
Yeah, so they wanted to see what's the cause.
Right.
So I tried to do stuff like mystery calling. This is something McDonald's used to do.
Yeah. Mystery
You would,
shopper.
Yeah, you would just pretend you're a customer and measure their service
Right.
and then sort of get. So I would, with the permission of the school and the students,
Yeah.
I would call in with a real issue, like, oh, my my exam, I wasn't able to take the exam. I want to get a replacement.
Mhm.
So I would call and see how they would deal with my challenge.
Right.
And then rate them based on like the questionnaires I had and stuff. So
Right.
I came up with ways of, and then applied the Lean Six Sigma tools
Uh-huh.
to improve their
Okay.
customer service.
And did you help them?
They came up with
Did they
an
listen
idea.
to you?
I think so. It was a higher education school, and they really I think they're using it already. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So let's talk about, so let's help the audience kind of wrap their heads around what exactly do you do in
That's
the most simplest terms, and then we'll expand on it. What is it that you do now? Your entire journey, and then that way we can give them an endpoint, so you can talk about how you went from Iran to Malaysia and all the way to where you are today.
That's right. Good question.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking that question. I was waiting for it. Is he gonna ask it?
Yeah, of course I'm gonna ask it. It's Bobby. It's all about you,
Oh,
sort of. Yeah,
thanks.
most of it.
All right, appreciate it. So yeah, what I do, I'm a mortgage guy.
Okay.
I help people get a loan
Mhm.
as long as there's a property that the lender can attach or
Mhm.
put a lien on.
Mhm.
So basically, a mortgage, which used to be called the death pledge, is so.
Why do they call it a death pledge? It's like, pay till I die.
Yeah. So, but it's not as bad anymore.
No.
It's like it's
People
like,
pay off their stuff all the time.
exactly. So it's a way for
It's the
people
death
to.
of the mortgage.
That's right. That's true. Until the mortgage dies.
Yeah, until the mortgage dies. That's a death pledge. The pledge till the mortgage dies.
That's right. So basically, help people buy the home they love,
Uh-huh.
or if they want to be creative, they want to tap into equity they have built there,
Mhm.
or so we call it refinance, or
Mhm.
they want to buy an investment. So basically, help people succeed
Mhm.
with their money story. Help
Mhm.
people realize their money dreams or
Right.
investments. And being in California, knowing that we are one of the few states
Mhm.
all over the nation that the real estate dreams are probably one of the biggest because
Mhm.
the payoff is probably one among the
Yeah,
highest.
it's a very
Yeah.
valuable state.
Yeah, it
Be
is.
our own country.
Like I remember I was doing a refinance for a client of mine,
Uh-huh.
and it was a small 2-bedroom townhome
Mhm.
in Manhattan Beach,
Mhm.
and they bought their home about 50 years ago. Guess how much they bought it for?
I don't know, $50,000.
$8,000.
$8,000.
Yeah.
I need to get that time machine to go back in time
and then
and
buy.
outbid them and buy for 10.
That's right.
And just sit on it and do nothing
do
with
nothing
it.
and then cash out, right?
And fast forward in time. I don't even want to wait 50 years. I'll just take the time machine back here,
And then
go
just
back
cash
and
it.
say, this is my property. So you have not aged. I know. This is,
And let's do it again.
I need to cash out so that way I can pay for this thing that I'm doing with my. No,
That's
just
right.
kidding.
Yeah. So they were telling me back then when they were buying, going back to the risk factor,
Uh-huh.
they said no one was buying in Manhattan Beach. Manhattan Beach was dirt land, and
Kind of like Redondo, South Redondo was
Yeah.
just all train land,
That's
right?
right.
Just
So
ghetto.
they were telling me like Hawthorne, Lawndale were like the more favorable ones, and they just took a risk on it. They didn't have like water systems and stuff like that fully developed.
Mhm.
They bought it, and now the home was appraised like over $1 million, like 1.2, 1.3 million.
Mhm.
The same house they bought $8,000. So going back to that.
So capital gains on that would be stupid.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's like, do you really want to cash out?
Yeah.
1031 exchange. Okay. So here's the thing. It's like I when I was playing in your space several years ago, and before I got out and stuff like that, one of the things that a lot of my peers and my colleagues and my friends, my family were saying is like, why do you want to go into the space of mortgage? It's so competitive. And I was like, I'm fearless. I don't care. So I go in there and I realized that it wasn't that it was competitive. There's just a ton of people, and there's a lot of mortgage people in
That's right.
mortgage,
Sure.
right? So how then do you then distinguish yourself from? Because I'm pretty sure most people listening to this podcast probably know right off the bat 2 or 3 mortgage lenders
That's
or
right.
brokers,
Or in
right?
their family.
Or in their family, even,
Yeah,
right?
or they are mortgage brokers.
Or they themselves are mortgage brokers. But I know better than to broker my own loan, because that's just like stupid. But I mean, I don't want to deal with it anyway. But how are you then different? I mean, what have you found was the biggest differentiating factor? What I like to call your unique value proposition. When someone comes to the table, they're out shopping.
course.
how do they ultimately make a decision to work with you?
Great. So I will always say, like in this time and age, I want to call it the new normal. I actually wrote an article in a Scotsman Guide magazine. It was about excelling in the new normal market.
Right.
So this new normal is what you exactly said. People are the millennials. I'm a borderline millennial myself. So I know that millennials are just internet savvy. They want to search everything,
Sure.
Google everything, and they know already everything about it before they even start doing it.
Well, they think they know everything.
At least they know a good deal of information. They have a good deal of information, not necessarily processed information.
Or accurate.
Yeah.
But they've collected
They
enough
sort
to
of-
get,
they
so
know
they're
a
not
little bit.
blind going
That's
in.
right. That's right.
Right.
So what really makes a difference in this market, in my eyes, is what you provide as a service. Like, it's not about the product. It's not about, because everybody's supposed to be competitive. Going
Right.
back to that blue ocean strategy idea that
Yeah, I love that book, by the way.
yeah, it's a great book. So and it's getting old, but the concept is not getting old.
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
So it's
I don't want to swim in a bloody ocean. There's sharks there.
yeah. So let's just stay in the blue ocean.
I know, right?
Let's survive.
Yeah.
So you want to beat the competition. So what beats the competition in customer service? Going back to the reason I did the Six Sigma, it's all about providing a better service.
And continuously making the service
make it
better.
Exactly.
Okay. And how do you do that? Do you get feedback, or what do you do?
That's right. Continuously, I try to become a part of like the extension of my clients' families. So I'm
like a household name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not just I'm not just their mortgage guy. I'm part of their birthday parties. I'm part of their families, and they know I'm there for them. Even like I've cases where clients call me, they're buying something in other states.
They call you for advice.
For advice, and they know I don't care. I want them to succeed, no matter if I make a penny out of it or not. It's all about them, and by them succeeding, I succeed along with them. So by being there for them, I have times where on a Sunday night, on a holiday weekend, someone calls me and says, "I'm writing an offer. I need my loan ready to go by tomorrow." I've had cases like that where we put it together, we close in 2-3 weeks because I'm not like a 9 to 5 type of guy. I used to be like that when I was at retail, but
So let's kind of do a quick little segue. How did you get into this whole area?
That's right.
Like because you did retail and everything like
That's
that.
right.
So you started around. What did your parents do again?
My dad was in a refinery. He was an engineer in oil refinery.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then my mom was a teacher, and then she resigned. So
Oil refinery in Iran?
Yeah.
Why?
That's a good question. Yeah, why?
I think there's not even oil fields over there. There's a ton of oil fields over there.
Yeah, especially with right now with all the sanctions, it's the good question.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, but yeah, I always wanted to be good in business.
Okay.
Like coming from a family where it was all paycheck to paycheck, and of course my dad tried to invest in real estate, even though he had that drama, but he came back. But I wanted to start with a self-employed entrepreneur.
Oh, so you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I wanted to be like that.
When did you realize that from day one? Like the moment you came out of your mom's womb, like,
hey, I'm an entrepreneur.
You were shaking entrepreneur. No.
Yeah,
No, at what point did you just...
I was still like I want to say on the long haul for the big every day is in and out. You want to succeed and get better, of course.
Was it like at 9, 10?
Yeah, it was.
11?
I was 9 years and 10 days old. I'm not kidding.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like in that moment you woke up, it's like entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's famous.
However you say it in Iran.
Yeah.
What is it? How do you say entrepreneur?
Car firing.
What?
Car means work. Offering means creator of work.
Oh, interesting. Sounds nothing like entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to have you write that down. But anyway, so as a child,
I just wanted to be successful. I wanted for the means to be not as important in my life. I wanted to come to a point where...
So you wanted to improve on what you grew up with in the environment, okay?
So I can stick to my values even better, contribute and help others to succeed with their story.
And how did you figure out that in order to do a better job in conforming to your values, it was to become more successful? I mean, where did you learn that okay, instead of just doing exactly what my parents did, I need to do something different. I need to do something more to get more, to be able to establish my values more and to create more for my life?
I think the thing I saw in my parents
Mhm.
was they were not as much risk takers. So I thought by taking a little bit more of risk,
Mhm.
I mean, being here thousands of miles away from where I was born,
That's risk in
kind
itself.
of, yeah, kind of tells.
It's like, I ain't gonna leave my country.
Yeah. So it's sort of, you take the risk as long as you know what you're doing, you're aware of yourself, your skills, your limitations, and the powers vested in you. You sort of know where you want to head.
Right.
Then you can succeed. But there are people where sort of those challenges, they hinder them from taking
Right.
them. So I thought I can take more risk.
Yeah.
And those could be more rewarding. So
Huh.
that was my but values are like going back to the retail side when I was with retail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to really bash the name out, but I mean it's all.
What
over
retail
the
work did you do?
It was with Wells Fargo, the bank.
Oh, you mean
yeah.
retail banking?
Yes,
right,
yes,
right,
yes.
right. Okay, got it.
So where I was there right where all these scandals were happening. you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't have to say anything because the whole public they it's all over the news anyway.
Exactly.
So,
So I'm not really saying anything other than what is already known.
you're not a whistleblower. Someone
Yeah.
already blew that whistle.
Yeah.
If you try to blow it again, it's dirty. It's like
So-
dirty whistle. No.
Exactly. So going back to the principles, I couldn't really, I didn't feel that I can stick to them.
Mhm.
I have a lot of great friends over there. I still do, and some of them are still there.
Okay.
But what I want to say is like it was about what is important to you, and what it was important to me was I can't take it anymore. So that's why.
Well, it was violating your values.
That's right.
And it's so funny now that I know this whole story is that you were probably dying every day there.
That's right.
You're having your values violated because that was more important to you than money.
That's right.
Right.
So you can't do that, and that's why I just left.
And how was your financial situation when you were working at Wells Fargo? Was it good? Was it?
It wasn't good. I
Yeah.
did not have any other alternative at the time
Uh-huh.
I turned in my resignation letter.
Yeah.
I remember it was one of those days where, they told us you have to stay to open a certain number of
Right.
accounts, and
So this is what I was looking for in terms of how your money story, when without realizing that you put yourself in a situation that compromised your values and which is part of your money story that you grew up
That's
with.
right.
And then when you didn't honor that part,
You say no.
it actually impacted your financial money flow.
That's right.
You weren't happy either at work, probably at home. You weren't sleeping well, probably.
That's right.
Because your values are just like, hello,
Yeah.
this is not what we grew up to be or to
That's right.
become. How can you how can you stand yourself going to work every single day doing that?
That's right.
Until you got to a point and say, enough is enough.
That's right.
And that's basically what. See, that's what's so cool about kind of like digging around a little bit, because now your money story is really it helps you kind of honor that more, because like, oh, I went against my money story when I joined this organization.
That's
and
right.
every day that I went in there, I was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden you look at your bank account, it's like, yeah, this is not good for me.
Yeah.
Not only on the financial side, but on my soul side,
That's
right?
That's so true.
So from there, you said, okay, no more retail, no more working for somebody else.
Sure.
It's back to my original path that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
And then grow with my clients. A lot
Mhm.
of I got referred to my new company out of one of my clients.
Mhm.
So you grow with the idea and your values. You stick with them,
Mhm.
and that's why I love working at Redona Mortgage
Right.
Center. Where I
Right.
am
And when did you start working there?
It was back in 2012.
2012. So
Yeah.
that was about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But how long ago did you finally make that leap away from retail and just jump into?
It was almost right where things were starting to get really rough, like about a few months before that,
Okay.
sort of.
So
2011-ish.
11?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I knew I wanted to move forward, and then I knew that I can do what is right,
Mm-hmm.
and then still be successful.
So when you honored your story and your values and everything, now where you are right now, would you say this is the most successful you've ever been in your life in
I would
terms
say
of
so. Yeah.
And it's because you got back on the wagon, so to speak,
That's right.
of the path that you already knew to be on.
That's right.
And it's so interesting that, when we have an amazing story that we grow up with, but we let societal influence, or we let the world, and despite being so well-traveled, I think the biggest value that you bring to the table when you work with your clients is because you're so well-traveled. You've seen facets of different types of human behavior, cultures, and everything like that. And so what you bring to the table is probably a different level of understanding of that client that's sitting in front of you, where they're probably coming from.
And their
also,
culture.
Yeah,
You
and
respect their culture, their
their
values.
culture.
Yeah, like going to Europe, you will see like how people are like their understanding of money is like working is different. Like their culture is totally not the way here in Africa. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
It's like, live. You gotta live your life.
Yeah, it's like quality time with their families. I remember in Barcelona, my wife and I would be amazed that on a weekday, like on a Wednesday or Tuesday, you'll see them like after 5 o'clock they would clock out and they would go and party hard or like as if it's a weekend. And
I did that last night.
Yeah, especially for your birthday. Yeah,
wasn't even my birthday yet. No, we were having a dinner meeting, just kind
Nice.
of. But you know what's interesting is like, I mean, just like yesterday. I mean, just that awareness of culture is such a huge piece. Yesterday they served us these burgers, and then I don't know if you know this about the Asian culture, but they had the one, each of us that ordered a burger, they had the knife to cut the burger stabbed right in the middle.
of course.
Kind of hold it together. What does that mean in the Asian culture? You know, we got smacked so hard every time we put chopsticks on mounds of anything, right? And it was because it's disrespectful to the elders. It basically shows like, you know, cemetery thing. And then, you know, it was interesting because I saw that. I was like, I don't know, you know, and there's a lot of Asian people in this area. I was like, yeah, I don't know if you're gonna like offend somebody at some point by doing that. I get the practicality because the whole thing was you stab the knife in there, so it makes it easy for you to cut the burger.
But at the same time, it's not really, especially if you know most of your clients are certain, you know, like if you're in a certain area where you have a lot of Asian customers, it's definitely worth your while to know their culture a little bit better.
So what violates that?
Yeah, because you're serving them, you might as well serve them.
Yeah,
well.
it's like you don't go to the South and, you know, refer to everybody by using the N-word. I mean, it's like, what?
That's right. Yeah, it's
I mean, it's not that extreme, but I mean,
but it's more of respecting people like mindset and viewpoint of the world, and that I was just saying to my coworker today that attitude brings you latitude. Like it's all about respecting.
What is that? Attitude brings you latitude. Explain what that means.
What I mean is like if you have a good attitude, a good behavior towards other people, that will help you go far. Because they see that you respect them, they respect you back. They're going to help you out, grow and succeed in your business or whatever undertaking you have. So,
and there's more latitude and tolerance for human error. Because
right.
At the end of the day, we're human.
We all make mistakes.
Right.
Well, it's all about
forgiveness, right?
That's right?
And if there's no latitude for forgiveness because your attitude sucks,
then you're
SOL.
in trouble.
You know?
Well, like talking about big brands, like companies that create that image for their clients as well as their staff. When they respect them, when like the company has created that environment that everybody can be themselves, they can vision what they want to be, and they're helping them to succeed. That sort of creates a very healthy environment for the company to succeed. And that's where the clients, the customers, will also help you out. Like I last night, a client of mine called me, and they become your sort of promoters. She said one of my family members traveled. They were working with another lender. I found out. I told them to stop. You got to work with Jan because I know he's gonna help you out.
So she's becoming your ambassador. Almost.
Exactly. So word of mouth and the extent to which you're connected with them, they think of you. Like they know. Let me refer this client to him. Is more of the attitude or the networking. You are part of the family. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, the process of doing a mortgage and a loan is essentially the same. I mean, you kind of gather materials, make sure you do anything, and then you send it to the underwriter, and the underwriter approves it, whatever. It's the same process everywhere. So what's the difference then, right? Especially if you're dealing with such a huge investment, you gotta like the person.
That's right.
And the person's gotta be willing to, and you gotta trust the person, and you trust the person will take care of you. I mean, there's so many different ways to slice and dice this, but I think the big underlying piece here, and especially for people, your peers and colleagues who might be listening, wondering, well, how does Jan do it? You know, how does he create the lifestyle they want? And I'm struggling, and well, probably because you have a different money story. But another thing is, I think it's just kind of understanding that it's more than just how good you are at mortgaging.
Yes. Because that's just the minute detail of what you do. Like when people ask me what you do, I don't necessarily tell them I do mortgages. I tell them I help people realize their dream of getting their home. Because I really think like that. Because I think people buying their home is the biggest investment they ever make in their life.
Oh yeah.
And so you want to be part of that process. You
Mm-hmm.
want to really walk with them along because it's a stressful,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, people have all their money on the board on the line.
Yeah.
And then if you make a mistake and you're not really caring for them,
Right.
that could be a catastrophe. That's
Or
what-
if something does happen, can they rely on you to fix
to
it?
fix it.
Right.
Would you put yourself in their shoes and be like them, like one of them, like all of you against, rather than you're on the other side?
Right.
So that's even when there are failures. If they feel like you're one of them,
Right.
they will help you, and they will,
Yeah.
you know, it will be a success story.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to succeed.
I remember one of my biggest referral sources when I was still in the industry. One of our team members completely messed up the paper one thing, and it was a huge mistake. And I think when the client, and I didn't tell them, I don't know how they found out, but when they found out that I took all the commissions we made off of that deal, completely put it back to fixing things and making things right on their property and everything like that, up and beyond what we took responsibility for everything, not even stuff that we made a mistake on. They realized at that point that it was more than about the money.
That's right.
To us.
That's right.
And so they actually became one of our biggest referral sources because you got to work with this guy.
That's right.
And then they tell them the story, and the guy's like, "Oh my God, this is kind of." So I think it's those little tiny moments that you accumulate over time. I bet you though, as if you go back to your portfolio and you kind of look through all the different success stories I have, there's going to be a common denominator, a common thread to all of them as to why you're so unique in your space. And I think the biggest challenge with most mortgage people, anybody in real estate, there's so many of you guys out there. How do you separate yourself?
That's right.
You know, you can put out a ton of content and stuff like that, but how do you? And I think there's something what I'm picking up on, and on just our conversation here today, and plus the previous conversation we have. Yeah, you're a lovable, affable guy. You're friendly. You're nice, and I think there's something to be said about those family values that you bring to the table, and the fact that you've been able to cross-section this all over the world in your travels, and that is what people are really kind of investing their time and energy into to help them to create the best experience ever. Not just for this one transaction, but for a lifetime.
That's right.
It's always nice to have an international friend,
That's right.
you know,
It's
wherever you
always-
go.
Yeah, and especially living in the U.S., as pretty much everybody is an immigrant.
I know.
Right?
Yeah. Anybody
Tend
says
to forget.
otherwise,
Yeah.
I will open up the history books for you and I'll tell you
it's
what's
just
going on.
facts are facts, right?
I have so many stories.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
But-
That's another time.
But traveling helps us understand
Mhm.
here, like, be more successful.
Yeah.
Because everybody has family somewhere overseas at
Sure.
some point.
That might come over.
Yeah, and then and all that is just knowing their culture, understanding it,
Mhm.
respecting it. It's been tremendously helpful in
Mhm.
everything I've done so far. It's
Yeah. Like even now, if I say I'm going to go to Malaysia, can you give me some pointers? You'd be able to just
I have-
throw everything out.
yeah, I have friends there that I miss them dearly. I mean, they're sort of like
Like,
my
we'll go
extended
out there and
family.
we'll go. He says, I'll go with you.
Yeah, I can take you.
Let's
to
close
all
this
the-
loan first, and then I'll go with you.
Yeah, we go to all the Chinese restaurants and
There you go.
everything. And
Are you saying that because I'm Chinese?
No,
Oh,
because
okay.
that was my favorite.
Okay. I was going to say, I was like,
Yeah.
hey, no, just kidding.
No. But my favorite restaurant was a dim sum place. We would go for morning, and it was a very mom and pop type of
Uh-huh.
restaurant where they would just serve this
Mhm.
phenomenal dim sums, which I miss so much.
Yeah.
They have something that is unique to Chinese in Malaysia.
Mhm.
It's called bak kut teh,
Bak-kut-teh.
and bak kut teh is it's a with pork. They make something really cool,
Uh-huh.
and it's really awesome. So
Wow, bak-kut-teh.
yeah.
I wonder if they serve that here. Did you ever find that here?
I don't think they have it here.
Really? I
Yeah.
bet you we gotta look for it.
Yeah.
Google it. Bak-kut-teh in Redondo Beach. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, believe it or not, we're almost at the top of the hour. I want to make sure that because for sure someone's probably listening to this either today or down the road, and they say, I really like this guy. You know, I'm dealing with a really crappy mortgage guy, and there are crappy people, so I'm not saying anything that's weird. But I think this is the guy for me. How do they connect with you? How do they reach out to you to be able to have, you know, to be able to develop that relationship? Because I think this is really, it's about a relationship.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
if you're thinking of it as a transactional thing, then you're approaching this whole huge investment piece all wrong. You need that relationship.
That's
so how
right.
do they develop that relationship? How do we?
So they can always. I'm pretty like available online, so
Mhm.
they can always email me at Jan.
YNN.
Yes, at
Uh-huh.
redondomortgage.com.
Redondo Mortgage. I'm going to put that in the Spreaker
Yes.
chat. So that,
And they can also call me at my cell phone, 310
wow,
291
310-291.
8122.
Do you have two different phones? Or is this your only
This
cell
is my only cell phone. And
Okay.
then
Are you okay with me putting
yeah,
it? Okay.
please, go ahead. And then it's online anyways.
Oh.
And then I'm on like Facebook. Like I have a page, Jan Fard of Redondo Mortgage.
Yeah, you're actually very active in social media, which I like to see.
Yeah, and sort of on Twitter. So I have a blog where
You want to give a shout out to your social media person that's here today?
Yeah,
That's doing the social media?
Yeah, Sarah is phenomenal. She's been so kind to come in to help me to expand the outreach for this event, and which I was very excited about. And she's great. So and then Twitter, they can just look my name up and then they'll find me. for
Awesome.
sure.
Okay, cool. So, reach out to Jan, YANN, at redondomortgage.com, or you can call him at 310-291-8122. He's fearless, puts his cell phone out there, and he only has one cell phone. I would actually put out, my burner phone,
Yeah.
so in case it gets out of control, I can just
That's
throw
right.
it away or something like that.
I get to smash it.
And it's a very cool thing because for those of you who are watching, this is going to be the last time that you see this show in this environment because we are moving, growing, expanding into a whole new studio space. And so hopefully the sound will be even better. We're upgrading the equipment even more. And so because you came here on the last one, I actually want to make sure that maybe we'll have you back again to talk about a specific thing around your industry. Today is more about who are you and why people should like you, because like I said, it's the relationship, right?
That's right. Getting to know the person first and then
Yeah,
get comfortable. Then the rest will just be easy.
Yeah, the rest will be easy, and we could talk about specific things that that may come up and stuff like that.
That's
so
right.
I would love to have you come back because it was fun. I don't know.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
if there's one thing you want to leave, let's leave one thing for two things. Okay, the one thing for people who are considering buying a home or refining and stuff like that. What is your take about what's going on right now? And then maybe one thing for your peers and colleagues who are struggling, because you're obviously thriving. So struggling, what you can do to kind of inspire them to turn things around for themselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So the first question I would say for all the potential clients, at any point, all of us will purchase a home. Or we want to purchase a home, we own a home, we want to deal with a mortgage at some point. So I would say it always a very smart idea rather than rent and pay someone else's mortgage to at least own your own home, and then don't pay rent if you can. At least get to know the details of that option, know what it takes to own a home, at least be ready if you
And they can talk to you about making a game plan.
of course,
for that.
yeah.
Okay,
It
come
could.
with strategy.
I've had clients where it took us a few years for them to even pull the trigger and
And you stay with them the whole
yeah,
way.
and-
Held their hand.
yeah, they call me
Through the
and
birthday
scenarios, stuff like that, so
Yeah,
we can
wash their cars.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Bring cookies.
Bring cookies.
Yeah. So it's always good to know your options.
Okay.
Always having an option versus not having an option is always the better. Is to have an option.
Mhm.
So know your options, no matter. And even if you're working with a lender, check the other lenders, or if you are referred to someone, check out and see if they can do something for you, can help you out. So
At
that
least
way-
basically saying have a plan.
That's right. Have
Even
a
if
plan.
if you're not in a circumstance where you can buy a home, at least have a plan.
Have a plan and at least know that your mortgage guy
Mhm.
is there with you, is ready to take your call when you need them. They're not like, oh, sorry, I'm on. I remember there was once I had pre-qualified someone and I was in Paris with my wife and it was 1 a.m. and I received a phone call and it looked from California, so I picked it. And it was a listing agent wanted to cross-qualify or double check the loan. And I took the call, and because of the fact that I took the call and we had a great conversation and she already knew me, she accepted their offer.
Nice.
So stuff like that. Had I lost that phone call, it would...
It probably would have made sense
Yes.
to your peers and colleagues out there
That's
who are
right. So I would say just be out there. Availability is my key to success. And I always tell my peers, like I work with a lot of realtors in the area. Like I do cross qualifications for the listings, I do pre-qualifications for the buyers, like anything regarding mortgage for the sellers or buyers. And what I do is I'm out there. if they pick up the phone and call me on a Sunday, they know that I will answer the phone. Or if I'm on the phone, I'll call them back. So
Right.
be out there, always put your best foot forward. And if times are tough or like rates are changing or market is changing, as long as you're out there, you're reaching, you're knocking on doors, ask and you shall be given, right? So there's always just be out there and be there to help your clients
Right.
and your your coworkers.
It's kind of like having a store in a strip mall, but you never open the door.
That's
Or
right.
you never. I mean, that's kind of what happens, right?
That's right. A lot of times, like they're asking for business, you call them and they're not there, and they don't return your call. So what? How could you?
Yeah. How do you expect to grow your business?
That's right.
So it's not a difficult thing to do. You just have to be willing to be out
Commitment.
there. Commitment to be
That's-
seen.
Yeah, just commitment
Right.
to your promise, like a pre-approval that I give out. I try to honor that.
Right.
Like,
And if you're not willing to do that, should you stay a mortgage broker?
I would recommend doing something else. Maybe
Clock in, clock out somewhere else. Oh,
Yeah, just get a paycheck to paycheck job or something that
Yeah.
doesn't require as much commitment. But
Right.
I would say commitment.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah,
You know,
it's great.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, but if you make that choice, everybody's a genius, right? It's just you need to find out what you are, what's your forte. Basically.
Right, and where to apply that genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
love that.
yeah.
That's so cool. That's a great way to kind of like wrap things up a little bit. So thank you so
Thank you
much
so much for
for
having
being
me.
on
I
the
really
show.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, make sure you stick around a little bit after. We can debrief and everything like that and say goodbye to the YouTube people. But that's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen and kids and any animals out there who like to listen to this podcast. I don't know if there are any. Again, if you found this episode to be valuable and know of someone else that could benefit from what we talked about today, share it. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes or give us a thumbs up on YouTube Live. And we even have a Facebook group called The Money Lab. So join us there to dive even deeper into bad money story elimination strategies. So that's a wrap. Have an amazing week to applying the knowledge from today. I'm out of here to go to my favorite place that I go every year for my birthday, Disneyland. And we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab Live podcast, where we have financial lifeguard and fellow money coach Christine Lucan. This is Wei from the Six Figure Academy and Jan Fard from Redondo Mortgage signing off.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.